Hey all, hope you are having a great weekend. And since the latest episode of Sunday Brunch just went live, I wanted to make sure that if you had listened to that and you had sent in a question and you didn't hear your answer, that you didn't feel like it wasn't going to be answered. I want to make sure that everyone feels like if they have a question, then they can have an opportunity to get it answered. And so that's why I am here on this installment of The Leftovers, where I go over any of those questions that might have been left over from the podcast, where we simply didn't have time to get to it, unfortunately. This week, I asked people to send in questions about social media, and that could be anything. It could be how I run my social media. It could be in general social media questions. It could be anything. All I ask is that they revolve around the topic of social media, and I got a lot of really great questions, so I was excited to answer them for you. And if you haven't yet listened to this week's episode of Sunday Brunch, just head on over to secretstageproductions.com and you can catch up, and I hope you enjoy it. We always have a blast putting them together, and I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. But anyway, without wasting any more time, I say we go ahead and just jump into the questions. I answered a couple on the podcast, but like I said, there were plenty that were, incredible in and of themselves, and we just don't have time to get to them. So here we go. Facebook or Twitter for personal reasons, and why? I think they're asking, do I prefer Facebook or Twitter in my own personal life? I use Facebook for Tipsy Writer, which is my original project that most of you know me from. But I don't really use it for personal reasons. There's not a lot of people in my life that I feel like I want to keep in touch with that I don't just keep in touch with. And so I tend to, if I use it at all, I use it as kind of a news reader. I subscribe to things like Huffington Post or whatever, and I kind of keep up to date on the news. But overall, I really don't use Facebook at all for personal reasons. And my Twitter and the Tipsy Writer account are the same. I use that as my personal account too. And so anything that you see on there and you're like, oh, is this really her? It's actually me. And so I guess if I had to choose one, I'd go with Twitter, because I don't use Facebook a lot for personal reasons. What do you think about social media connecting each other from around the world, whether for business, friendship, or even those that have found a significant other through there? I think that social media in and of itself is kind of an amazing tool. It's one that we've only had in the past, 10, 15 years or so, if that. I don't actually know the answer to that. It is a way to meet people that we never in our wildest dreams would have crossed paths with in our normal life. And I think that the fact that we live in an age where that's possible in and of itself is amazing. And I think that, most of us kind of grew up with this sense of stranger danger, where if we talked to people that we didn't know, then we had to be careful. And I think there's still a level of that where you should probably not give out too much personal information, and you shouldn't do things that are going to put you in a bad situation. But I think using social media in order to learn, in order to make friends, in order to connect with others and share in things that we might not feel like we have a place to share elsewhere, I think there's no reason not to be taking advantage of that. Not to mention, just from an employment standpoint, social media is a great way to show your level of expertise and to show who you are as a person. And I know that a lot of employers are really, picking up on that. They're looking up who they're thinking of hiring on social media, and how you portray yourself really can make a huge difference. And so that's important to keep in mind as well. So I think that social media is an amazing tool, And I think that if you're not using it, then you're really missing out on an opportunity. Next question is, how do I grow followers on social media organically rather than buying my followers? I do think this is hard, but I think the best thing you can do is just stick with it. Be interesting. Be interested in others. And I really think that's a huge part of it, is being interested in others and not just spitting out whatever you're thinking. I do think that's a part of it. I think you have to share in order for this to be beneficial. But going on to other people's account, making them feel like you're interested and being interested in other people, that's far more than just being a face on a page and saying what you think. You have to care about others, care about what other people are saying, and, to be cliche, you have to give back as much as you are getting. And whether that will gain you the popularity you're looking for, there's no real tried and true secret to that. But I think just giving it your all and doing the best you can and really caring about other people will get you farther than anything else. Next question is, how do you maintain and keep Tipsy Chat positive and relatively troll-free when internet negativity is so prevalent? In case you don't know, I'm sure most of you do, but Tipsy Chat is the weekly Twitter chat that I run on Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It's a ton of fun. It's a great community. If you haven't joined in, I highly, highly recommend that you do. How do I keep it positive and relatively troll-free? I think a lot of that comes down to just ignoring the people who are trying to troll it. Not to say we haven't had our share of negativity, but I don't think that we as a community and I as a host for the chat invite it in. And I think that is, it's easy to see. We're a very positive group. We have a lot of fun. We joke around, things like that. But we're not putting others down, and we're not being exclusive and things like that. And I think whatever vibe you put out is what you're going to get back. And I think that's just kind of the image that we've put out at this point, and it's gone a long way as far as creating the image in the community that we really want. Next question is, what are signs that a person spends too much time on social media as a spectator? I always know that I'm spending too much time on social media when I start seeing the same things over and over. So there's that. But if at any point you feel overloaded, if social media is stressing you out, if social media isn't bringing more to your life, if it is becoming a drain on you, you feel like you have to check it, things like that, it shouldn't be a chore. Social media should be a tool that you use in order to further yourself, to make friends, to have a good time. And if it's not that, then I highly recommend that you just consider taking a step back or giving it up altogether. My life is social media. It's, how I make a living, but it's not for everyone. And I know that personally, if you were to come to me and say, hey, Megan, it's time for me to put myself first. I'm sorry, but I'm going to go do that. Then, I completely understand, and I would recommend that you do that. I've had people come to me and do it before. They say, I love Tipsy Chat and I love being a part of this community, but my life is coming first and I have to take care of myself. I totally understand, and I think that doing you is always in your best interest. And then last question, is social media slowly becoming a corporate tool, or is it still a means for people to create personal interactions? I think there's a couple ways of approaching this. I do think that corporations are using social media because it's where the people are. Do I fault them for this? No. It can be annoying when you log on for personal reasons and you want to talk to your friends and real people. Seeing a brand pop up isn't always what you want to see right off the bat. However, I can't really fault them. They're making themselves accessible in a way that things like hotlines or mail-ins or, customer service counters, they're addressing things that, can't be addressed in those manners. And I don't feel like it's taking away from the personal interaction at all. However, I do think that the corporations that are doing the best are the ones that are approaching social media as if they are real people and not a corporation. They are hiring community managers who can give a voice to the company that doesn't seem stale, and they are connecting with people in human ways that make connecting with a corporation not boring, and come across as if there really is a person behind that account that really does care about you as a consumer or as a customer or someone who needs help or a question or things like that. Those are the companies that are doing it right. And it's not easy. I worked in this industry for a while, being the voice of companies, and it is so hard to be both a person and to maintain, an air of business. But it can be done, and I think blurring those lines is actually where it is best, when you have those corporations who are using it as a tool, and you have the personal interaction. I think when you have a combination of both, and when corporate accounts have that human feeling interaction, I think that's when it's done best. Anyway, that is all of the time we have to answer these questions for this week, but I want to thank you to those of you who sent in your questions this week. And if you haven't had a chance to listen to this week's episode of Sunday Brunch, again, just head over to secretstageproductions.com and give it a listen. And keep your ears out for when I ask for another question topic. When I ask for you to send in more questions. There we go. Until then, hope you have a great week.